Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Headbangers Closet. Pal Brett here. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying their weekend. So I know you guys like thrash metal, as do I, right? So what is the best thrash metal album of all time? And let's kind of put, some rules on this. So we're gonna say OG thrash bands, stuff from the '80s, when thrash came out. What are the best thrash metal albums of all time? I'm sure all of you guys watching this video have seen that question posed over the last 10, 15, 20 years on social media in a number of ways. So I wanted to talk about my favorite thrash metal albums. Not so much my favorite thrash metal albums, thrash metal albums that I believe should be in the conversation of best thrash metal albums of all time. And we're gonna start with the four that, when you see that question on social media, they get the most votes. I think these are non-debatable. These get the most votes. I'm not saying they're the best. I'm not saying that these are the four best thrash metal albums of all time. I'm saying these four get the most votes. So let's get right to it. These are the four that get the most votes, and then I'll show a handful of albums that I feel should be in the conversation. They're not all going to be definite best thrash metal albums, of all time quality, but albums I like enough to have them in the conversation. I want to hear what you guys have to say about it, because you might argue with me and say some of these aren't even thrash metal. So let's get right to it. The four that are without a doubt the most voted for when people say what are the best thrash metal albums of all time. We got Slayer's Rain and Blood. I think nobody can deny that. We have got Megadeth's Rust in Peace. Again, album that when people talk about thrash, this is always up there in the conversation of the best of all time. Then we've got the debut from Exodus, Bonded by Blood. And then the album that I think started it all, the OG, the GOAT. You got Metallica's debut, Kill 'Em All. So in this list, you've got two debuts, Metallica and Exodus, and then you've got Rust in Peace from Megadeth and Rain and Blood from Slayer. Two albums that kind of came a little bit into their career. They kind of, cut their teeth, so to speak, on a few albums, kind of got everything together, and they got the right formula, the right everything at the right time, and made their best albums, or what a lot of people think are their best albums. So interesting that you've got two debuts and then two albums that kind of came out a little bit later. But four albums, nonetheless, definite best of all time worthy. So now we're going to get to a bunch of records that I've pulled from my collection that I feel should be in the conversation, legitimately or not, or just because they're albums I love, right? So let's get to it. Let's talk about it. Evil Dead's Annihilation of Civilization. I picked this up, I want to say like a year and a half ago. This is a grail for me. This is an OG pressing. Love this album from start to finish. It is a banger. It is an album that just screams thrash when you listen to it. When you hear it, to me personally, just like a lot of records that I'm going to show you today, just kind of just embodies what I feel thrash metal is all about, that 80s thrash metal sound. Evil Dead's Annihilation of Civilization. Not a huge fan of the rest of the stuff in the catalog, but this thing right here is a flawless 10 out of 10, so I wanted to include it in the video. So, of the first four I showed, there's a handful of them that are going to have other records here that I'm going to show. Slayer's one of them. My favorite Slayer record, Show No Mercy. His Show No Mercy, I'm a jackass. My favorite Slayer record, South of Heaven. Now, not many people mention this when it comes to best thrash metal albums of all time, but it's my favorite Slayer record, and I want to include it. That same thing can be said to the debut, Show No Mercy. I love this thing. It is a thrash metal album start to finish. Nowhere near their best, in my opinion. I just really, really like this album. You kind of can hear the band's attitude and sound. And, I don't want to say you can hear where they're going to go. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. But I definitely think it is a great starting point. And when you hear this one, then you kind of start hearing the next few after that. You kind of can tell, they had the right formula. They just had to kind of perfect it, which a lot of people don't think it was completely perfected till Rain and Blood. So this next album is a record I feel gets kind of forgotten about, and when I show it to you, you can be like, oh yeah, definitely, great record. It's Forbidden's Twisted into Form. Forbidden's best record, without a doubt. This album, start to finish, Amazing record. Absolutely love this thing. Just like all the other records on this, another one of those 80s thrash metal albums to me that just kind of, well, this one came out in 90, I think, but you know what I'm talking about, right? Just kind of just screams thrash metal. Great record. Absolutely love it. And, Metallica, mentioned earlier with Kill 'Em All, the debut, right? The GOAT, the OG thrash album. A lot of people mention these 3 records. Now, I really won't argue with Ride the Lightning, right? A lot of people pick this as their best album, all right? Great thrash record. I feel it's a great thrash record. Can't argue with that. A lot of people talk about this one. A lot of people vote for that whenever you see that question posed. But a lot of people also mentioned Justice for All. A lot of people also mentioned Master of Puppets. 2 albums, definitely worthy of being in the conversation, right? Definitely worthy. To me, personally, just my opinion, you guys feel free to disagree. To me, these 2 albums are more heavy metal records than thrash metal records. Call me crazy, say what you want about it. Agree with me, maybe. I feel they're more heavy metal than thrash. A lot of thrash stuff on them, but when I think about them, if I'm going to put them in a category, they're going in the heavy metal category. So, love Overkill. Wanted to include a couple records from Overkill in this list because it's Overkill, right? We've got Under the Influence and The Years of Decay. Now, there's a lot of great Overkill records, right? And I'm sure a lot of you guys will put in the comments, and I want you to. Let me know what your favorite Overkill record is. Which one do you feel is the best thrash metal album in their catalog? Those are the 2 that I feel are. But again, I want to hear y'all's opinion. Overkill is one of those bands, just like this next one, Testament, that have just great records. They're super duper consistent with the thrash. So what do you guys feel? Same thing with Testament. I feel the debut, The Legacy, is awesome. I've said it a bunch of times in this video already, but there's kind of, one of those albums that kind of embodies 80s thrash metal, in my opinion. Bay Area 80s thrash. Cannot go wrong with this. Every song on this album is awesome. I saw them play this in its entirety in the fall when they came to Atlanta. They played this one, and then the next one, why is the name eluding me right now? I feel like an asshole. Anyway, played the first 2 records in their entirety, not front to back, all jumbled up and mixed in, but really, really great show. One of my favorite shows I've ever seen, but awesome. Testament, The Legacy, the debut, great thrash album, but again, just like Overkill. What's your favorite one? It might not be The Legacy. You might actually think, Practice What You Preach, or, Souls of Black, something like that. The New Order is the best one. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. And here's another one a lot of people might have forgotten about, might not even really know about. But to me, it is an awesome thrash record. Just like some of the other ones I've shown from front to back. Just a great thrash album. Boston's Wargasm. The album's Why Play Around. Absolutely phenomenal record. Give this one a listen if you haven't. Or if you haven't listened to it in a while, give it another listen. It's absolutely phenomenal. Next one we have is a record I've talked about a bunch of times on this channel. I think is a great record. Sepultura's Beneath the Remains. I just talked about it recently when it had a birthday. Amazing record. Easily one of the best thrash albums of all time. And I'm including this one only because it's my favorite. I could have included Schizophrenia, Beats of Devastation, Morbid Visions, Arise. I've got all of those in the collection. But I didn't really want to put those in there because really nobody's kind of talked about those records when it comes to best thrash metal album of all time, but I have seen people talk about Beneath the Remains, so I want to include that. Now, before I go any further, there are a couple of albums that I do not have that definitely need to be on this list, and I'll get to those in just a second, and I'll explain to you why I'm not showing them. Well, I don't have them. That's why they're not on the freaking list. I'm kind of about that. Like, I won't add something onto a list or, on a video if I don't have it in the collection. It's kind of like, can't show it, so why add it, right? But anyway, next one we have Violence's Eternal Nightmare. Phenomenal record. This is a killer reissue from Metal Blade Records I got about a year or so ago on that. It's called like Flesh Color. It looks like pink to me, but awesome record. This thing's phenomenal. All of the Violence stuff's great, but when I'm thinking just pure thrash metal, what I love about thrash metal, Violence's Eternal Nightmare is the one that comes to mind. It's my favorite one. Great, great record. Next one we have Creator's Pleasure to Kill. I could have kind of put a few Creators on this, as well as a few other bands too. I could have thrown on there, like a few different Exodus records, but I feel this is the one that most people are going to agree on. Pleasure to Kill is their best thrash metal album. It's another pretty cool reissue I got last year. Pretty cool looking vinyl. And this is where I want to talk about a couple other bands now. Creator, the best of the German, European thrash bands, if you will, in my opinion. Could have chosen, like I said, a handful of other Creator records, but Destruction's really good. Love a bunch of their stuff. Love all their albums, but a handful of their records, really, really good. But I just didn't think they were good enough to put on this list as some of the greatest thrash records of all time. But there are two Sodom albums that I feel deserve to be on there. I'm not going to show them because I don't own them on vinyl, right? They're kind of hard to find, very pricey. You got Agent Orange and Persecution Mania. Two great Sodom albums that definitely should be in the conversation for greatest thrash metal albums of all time. But I don't have them, so I really can't show them. So that's my rule. That might be a stupid rule, but that's my rule, right? So of the bands like in the big four of thrash metal, there was one I did not show at the top of the video of the four, arguably greatest thrash metal albums of all time. And when that question is posed, Anthrax is kind of left out. But these albums, in my opinion, deserve to be in the conversation among the living. The best thrash metal album in Anthrax's discography, in my opinion, Spreading the Disease. To me, that's without a doubt. But I have seen a lot of people online say the best thrash metal album in Anthrax's discography is the debut, Fistful of Metal. Don't really agree with that. Awesome record, nonetheless. Really great record. But I don't agree with that. I feel without a doubt it's Spreading the Disease. And probably after that, I would definitely say Among the Living. Fistful of Metal might come in third or fourth, in my opinion. But it's my video. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Am I wrong on that? Do you guys agree? Let me know. And then, of course, Megadeth. Last but certainly not least, one of the best thrash metal albums of all time, if not the best. You've got the debut, Killing is a Business, Business is Good. It's the final kill. Gatefold, not really going to get into that, all that stuff, but amazing record. The debut, very, very angry Dave Mustaine, very speedy Dave Mustaine. And then you have the next one. Well, this next one is it's not the next one in order, but this is the next one. It's my favorite Megadeth album. So far, so good, so what. Absolutely love this record. I probably listen to this thing every couple of days. I like it that much, and it definitely belongs in the conversation, in my opinion. But the other Megadeth album that I would kind of feel most people would kind of talk about and vote for if that question was asked, what is the best thrash metal album of all time? This one is Peace Sells, who's buying another masterpiece of a record. All of those just, a lot of, not all, but a lot of those 80s thrash metal album bands, they just have like strings of just bangers one after another, and like, you just don't see that nowadays. Like, you can have a great thrash album come out, and then the next one's garbage, right? But I just, Megadeth, Metallica, Exodus, Slayer, Testament, none of those guys disappoint, right? But just amazing record. So, there you have it, guys. Let me get a sip of my Sam Adams Summer. Those are the albums I feel should definitely just be in the conversation. At least let's talk about it, right? Let's just say why I feel they're there, what songs, and why you guys might think they don't belong or agree with me. Excuse me, feel free in the comments. We'd love to talk about this, you guys. But let's get back to the four. Let's get back to the first four. And the reason why I chose these as first four, because like I said earlier, these ones get the most votes, right? So you got Metallica's debut, Kill 'Em All. You've got Exodus's debut, Bonded by Blood. You've got the absolute masterpiece from Megadeth, Rust in Peace. And then you have another masterpiece from Slayer, Rain in Blood. Which one of these would I say is the best thrash metal album? Well, my answer is probably going to surprise you guys. I'm sure you guys have been watching my channel for any length of time and you see everything behind me. You're going to say, he's going to go with Metallica, right? No, I'm not. Surprisingly. I'm going to go with an album that, all these albums are great, right? All these albums are great. All of them are amazing thrash records. But when I think of thrash and why I like thrash so much, in particular, 80s thrash, debut from Kill 'Em All. Nobody heard that before, right? amazing record. Slayer perfected it on Rain and Blood. And then, Megadeth just took everything they had, kind of learned and done and just perfected that into Rust in Peace. But to me, Exodus is Bonded by Blood. The best thrash metal album of all time. I mean, it has everything. I mean, it's not the most technically sound. The solos are good, but the solos don't even compare to the stuff on the other 3 albums. The riffs are amazing, just absolutely amazing riffs. But everything about this album, to me, just screams thrash metal. And the rest of these do as well. I would say of the 4, the one that maybe has something on it that's not as thrashy might be Rust in Peace. But just with this one right here, everything about this one just is thrash to me. And 80s thrash in particular. That's why I love this record so much. So let me know in the comments. Like I said a whole bunch of times in this video, I want to hear from you guys on this particular issue. I love heavy metal, but thrash metal, in particular 80s thrash metal, is my wheelhouse. So I love talking about with you guys. Am I wrong or right on any of these records, or some of them not even be on this video? Not even in the conversation? What other albums should I add? I guess that's the number one question I want to hear from y'all. What other albums would you add to this list? And of the 4, which one you guys think? Bonded by Blood, like I got. Rain and Blood from Slayer. Rust in Peace from Megadeth. Or Metallica's debut, Kill 'Em All. What do you guys pick? So anyway, let me know in the comments. Appreciate everybody checking out the channel, watching the videos. I love talking about this stuff with you guys. Sorry I've kind of been MIA for a while. I haven't done a video in a bit. Been super busy with work and everything else here at the home. But yeah, hopefully I'll have a video for you guys very soon. Going to see Metallica in Nashville next weekend, so stoked about that. So maybe do a quick video from there. Or maybe like a show recap or something like that. But anyway, like I said, appreciate everybody checking out the channel. And hope you guys have a great weekend. And I'll see you soon. Cheers, everybody.